Belle, I'm gonna put the link again in the chat and you can try it again to see if that'll work.
Well, you can't put it in the chat because it's not gonna, it won't
Oh,
open.
that's right. I will send it to you as an email real quick.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
You'll let me know if that works.
Okay. I've never had a problem with Zoom before. It's weird.
All right. Well,
My friend's trying it on hers. It was with me. She can't open it on hers either.
I
hope other
had
people
to
aren't having that trouble.
manually just type in the meeting number. I couldn't like click on the link.
Yeah, the link is not working.
The link didn't work. You had to just type it in.
I had to type in the password, which is not usual.
There was an
You don't have to do
email
anything, just
a
click the
week
link.
ago, had the link and that worked. The most recent link didn't work. One from about a week ago did. So if you have an old email, that could work.
I used the one
An
from
old email?
Friday.
The one in the flyer works, and if not, just
One from
right
Temple.
click and copy and paste it into a new browser.
Yeah.
Okay, let us.
okay. Well, friends, hopefully everyone will be able to join us, and Sharon, you and I can chat privately if you need me to try to resend something or whatnot. But with that, what a wonderful way for us to come together. And look at that, we are over 30 screens. I hope that everyone is doing well. It's great to see you all today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can actually start with 2 blessings. Of course, just being together is a blessing, but we're going to say 2 blessings together. We are going to start with offering a Shehechianu because this is the first gathering of the year of 5782. Can you believe it already? So little round of applause that we've all made it to the new year. And here we go. I invite you to repeat after me. Feel free to unmute yourself. Baruch atah Adonai. Eloheinu melech haolam. Shehechianu. Vikiyamanu. Vihigianu. Bazman hazeh. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of all, who has kept us alive, sustained us, and brought us to this time, this season, this wonderful opportunity of coming together as a sisterhood. And for that, let us say amen.
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 And since we're about to do some wonderful learning, I invite you to join with me. It might not be exactly Torah, so to speak, but it's going to be Torah. I think we'll be really excited. So join me again. Feel free to repeat after me. Baruch atah Adonai. Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav. V'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to engage with the words of Torah, commanding us to engage in this opportunity of sacred learning in fellowship. And let us say amen.
Amen.
And with that, I turn it back over to the presidents of our LCS to lead us in our official introduction and welcome our fabulous guest speaker. So Sharon and Sherry, take it away.
Thank you, Rabbi. And I'm so happy to see everyone. I wish we could be in person, but this is the next best thing. My grandmother, with her Yiddish accent, when she wanted to say you look nice, would say, you look beautiful. So to me, you all look beautiful. Even Walter and Glenn, you're beautiful. I'd like to give you a little bit of an introduction to our speaker. Beverly Tetterton. When I asked her if she had a printed bio, she said, no, just don't say anything. So I did a little research, and as you can imagine, with her background and as much as she's done, there's quite a bit to say, and it has nothing to do with her age. So I took out a few things that I'd like to tell you about. Beverly grew up in Williamsburg, Virginia, and as a young woman, she worked as a hostess in colonial Williamsburg. It should not surprise you, dressed in full 18th century outfits. She attended Peace College, William and Mary, and East Carolina University. She earned a master's degree in library science through North Carolina Central University. Excuse me, Rabbi, I think Sue Abramsky is having trouble getting on. If you could send her the link.
Would be happy to.
Thank you. Beverly worked in libraries in Goldsboro, Duke University, even in Amsterdam, as well as our own New Hanover County library system, where she was the special collections librarian in chief of the New Hanover County Library's North Carolina room. With the Historic Wilmington Foundation, she has led the plaque committee for several decades. If you drive around and look at a lot of the historic homes, you'll see different color-coded plaques by the front doors, and Beverly was very instrumental in getting that program going. She has written several books, including Maritime Wilmington and A Brief History of New Hanover County. She has been a valuable resource for countless local historians, including Chris Fonville Jr. and the late Bill Reeves, whom she worked closely with on Strength Through Struggle, the historical record of Wilmington's African-American community. And to quote Chris Fonville, when speaking of Beverly, "No one person has done more to preserve, protect, and promote our past in the last 40 years than she has. There is not one history book written in this community in the recent past that does not have her name in its credits. She is known as the historian to the historians." And additionally, I would like to share one more book that she has written that is hot off the press, along with Peggy Pankow. She has written The History of the Temple of Israel. Let me just put it this way. It's a wonderful book and is available for purchase, and the money will go toward the restoration of our 4th Street Temple. For her commitment to our community in 2020, she was presented with a Star News Media Lifetime Achievement Award. Beverly and Glenn live in a 100-plus-year-old house in Wilmington's historic district. Their daughter Ariel is expecting baby number 2 to join brother York at the end of the month. So it is with pleasure that I give you our temple president, Beverly Tetterton.
Well, thank you. Now, if I could just figure out how to share the screen. There it is.
Yeah, you got it.
Can everybody see that?
Not yet.
Not yet. And while you're doing that, Beverly, I'm just going to say, Sharon, I'm just going to send out a new email just real quick in case anyone else is having trouble. It's going to go out to the whole congregation. Just setting that up right now.
If not, Rabbi, just tell them to type it in manually. That's what I had to finally do.
Okay.
But none of the links worked.
It's up on your screen. I'll put it up on my screen.
It's on my screen. Y'all can't see it.
I went to speaker view. So I could see you.
Oh, well, let Glenn do it because I'm too technically challenged.
Not a problem. We are happy Glenn is helping.
Can you see it now?
Not yet.
Let me know if you need me to walk you through anything.
Well, Beverly, what are we supposed to be seeing?
My history of the Ladies Concordia Society.
This is promising.
This looks good.
All right.
On here. So what do I do now?
We see it. I mean, I see it. Does everybody else see it?
Yeah.
See it?
Yeah, I think Beverly, if you just start talking.
Yeah.
But I don't understand. You need to have it full of, I'll do it, full screen.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not in presentation format.
Yeah, okay, they're telling her. Yeah, you need to put it in presentation mode.
Or you call it side-by-side speaker. That's what I have, and I have all three photos.
There you go. All right. Is everybody ready?
Yes.
Got it.
Okay. Why doesn't it go forward? Okay, I got it now. So the Harmony Club, also referred to as the Harmony Circle, appears in the local newspapers as early as 1867, when they had their second grand ball at City Hall to raise money for the Hebrew congregation. And they call it a dress ball or a fancy dress ball. So I went and, well, back in the old days when I was an actual librarian, we had books on dress codes, but you can actually go online now. And these are the sort of things that would, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. These are the kind of things that people would have worn about the time that LCS or the Harmony Club, well, right after the Civil War. These are the type of clothes. And look at that hat.
wow.
So let me tell you about a typical dress ball. And I read this in the old newspapers. Guests would arrive at 9 o'clock. No men were allowed without a lady. Dancing begins at 10 o'clock. At 12, supper is served. At 1 o'clock, dancing resumes and the venue closes at 3 a.m. Anybody ready for that? Local orchestras provided the music. And I must say, in the early days, there were some fantastic African-American orchestras. One was called the Redbud Band. Later, there were ones like the Miller Orchestra. A lot of them were German and African-American. These were Jewish-only events, and they often would have them for out-of-town visitors. Early on, all of the dress balls took place at City Hall, but later they would have their events at a place that they would call Harmony Hall. Harmony Hall was usually on the second floor of a Jewish business. And if you look at the postcard to the left, that's the A. David building. And they used to have Harmony Hall up on the second floor. Across the street was the Bear building. They headed up there. And then the bank that you see where I'm pointing to was designed by the same architect that designed the Temple of Israel. And I'm almost sure that when he did this bank in the Moorish revival style, the temple said, yeah, we'll take one of those. So the Harmony Club or Harmony Circle, they had these beautiful dishes. And when I was a young member of the temple, they were in the cupboard in Rosenthal Hall until about 2000, when LCS decided that they were going to remodel Rosenthal Hall, and they sold all of the Harmony Club dishes. This one, fortunately, was purchased by Beth Pankow, and she gave me this picture. Most of them were purchased by Elka Jaros, who was the president at the time. Elka now lives in Texas. I sort of would like to get up with her and see if maybe we could get some of those dishes back. But so just to do a little, I'm going to do this chronological and then topical. So in 1902, LCS paid for the installation of the first telephone in the temple. The number was 161. Do you know what that means?
Mm-mm.
It was the 161st telephone in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Wow.
And in 1904 or 5, I can't remember exactly, the chandelier was electrified. So they're just getting electricity and they already have a telephone. And in 1909, LCS raised $400 to be sent to the victims of the earthquake in San Francisco. So you'll see this all over the newspapers, and that's the Feast of Purim, which was celebrated big time by LCS. It was called the Purim Ball, and it started in 1877. And I don't know, I have it up until like the 1920s or 30s. And to be honest with you, I would love for us to do this again. It would start out with these beautiful children that you see, and I've tried to identify them, but I can't exactly, I'm not exactly who they are. But anyway, the children would have a big ball, and then they'd go home, and then their parents would come dressed appropriately, and there would be another fancy ball. So I just wanted to say something about my dear friend Helen Solomon. I know a lot of you remember Helen. She helped me write the first history of the Ladies Concordia Society. She went through all of our records, which I must say are much better than the board records. And as quoting, the Ladies Concordia Society was formally organized in 1872. The name was chosen in part as a recognition of the growing interest in women's suffrage and the early women's movement. And there's my dear friend, Helen. So, and I'm quoting right from the records, from its inception, the purpose of the Ladies Concordia Society was to promote the cause of Judaism and to aid by its fund of the maintenance of the temple of worship in our midst. And there you see Rosalie Jacobi. She was born in Germany in 1836, and she died in Wilmington in 1900. She's buried in the Hebrew Cemetery. She was the first president of LCS, and she remained in office for 27 years, Sharon. Sherry, she had just been reelected when she died. And in fact, I think she was on her way to an LCS meeting. And Sharon has already talked about this book that I wrote, and if you, it cost $100 and it goes to the restoration of the temple. But a lot of people who have already purchased the book have told me that their very favorite photograph in the book is, how do I go back? Anyway, it's Rosalie Jacoby and her hair. Her hair is so gorgeous. I just wanted to say also that my dear friend Joanne Fogler, Joanne and I were about 2000 or 1999, we decided we were coming up with the 125th anniversary of the temple and we were going to do something about it. So Joanne and I rode all over town. We talked to the old members. We recorded them, and all of those tapes are in the archives at the temple, and they all need to be transcribed. So I had, Joanne and Helen helping with this project, these projects. So I thought you might want to see some of the early members of LCS. Over on the left is Babette Bear, who was born in Germany. And then there's Mrs. Demmelman, Mrs. Wheel, and Hannah Greenwald anyway. And the one on the bottom left is Miss Mouse. So Mr. Katz and Mr. Lyons went to Philadelphia on business because there was a lot of business between Philadelphia and Wilmington. And while they were there, Mr. Katz said, well, I know the Mouse family, let's go see them. So they went to see the Mouse family. Miss Mouse fell in love with Mr. Lyons. And that's how Miss Mouse ended up in Wilmington. It's a true story.
Mr. Bear was there.
Yeah,
too.
Mr. Bear was there too. So this building is at 411 Chestnut Street, and it was the first parsonage, and I have come up with this term, rabbinage. Is there such a word? But anyway, not ravage, rabbinage. So when our first rabbi, Samuel Mendelson, when he first came, shortly thereafter, he went back to Philadelphia and he married Esther Jastrow, and her father had been his mentor in Philadelphia. Anyway, her uncle. Anyway, so when he brings his bride back to Wilmington, the LCS had rented this house and completely refurbished it with curtains and carpets and furniture. And they were just so impressed. And years ago, when I was doing a Jewish walking tour and Wendy Sadlowski was with us, we walked up and I told her about that. And she said, oh no, how come that didn't happen when Paul and I moved to Wilmington? But anyway, if LCS, if you could look to the right, that the building is available if we want to buy it again. And so also one of the things that LCS did is they bought our beautiful organ that's at the temple. There was an earlier organ, and then it was replaced by the one that you see here. And by the way, it is the oldest organ in Wilmington, North Carolina. All of the churches have replaced theirs. So it's kind of a special Pilcher tracker organ, which is fairly rare. So then LCS decided, well, we need a bigger and better parsonage. So they bought this house at 511 Orange Street. And it's still there. You can go by and see it. I went over there and took photos of it the other day. And I just wanted to give you a little geographical tour of that area. So where the LCS bought the parsonage, across the street on the left, that you'll see the bishop's residence. He was the Episcopal Bishop of Eastern North Carolina. And then the photograph on the right is the Hashhagen house. The Hashhagens were big in the Lutheran church. They were also German, and the rabbi spoke German, the Hashhagen spoke German. I could just see them out on the street saying,
Guten Morgen.
Guten Morgen or whatever. And if you see that little red arrow, that's where the rabbi lived, and this is the Hashhagens. Across the street, the photograph on the right is the Willard house. And the Willards were big time Presbyterians. In fact, Mrs. Willard came to Wilmington to teach Sunday school at First Presbyterian Church. Mr. Willard was a big Mason. He was like the Grand Master of North Carolina. And in case you didn't know, lots of Jews were Masons as well. On the left, which would be catty-cornered from where the rabbi lived, first was a Baptist church, and then it was an African-American church. Now it's an African-American Masonic lodge. So I'm just trying to tell you that Wilmington wasn't very segregated. And then just around the corner on 6th Street is the Jacob Wheel House. So there were Jews, Presbyterians, Lutherans, Episcopalians, and African Americans all living in the same neighborhood. So I looked at the city directories at the public library. I know that Rabbi Mendelsohn lived in this parsonage. I know that Rabbi Rosenthal, who was with us for a very short time, he was a Holocaust survivor, and he and his wife escaped separately and got back together in the United States, and they never saw their son again. And so Rabbi Rosenthal lived here with his wife, Trudy. The last one that's in the city directory is Rabbi Sober, and that would be 1856. And then you see the picture of 1956. Then you see the picture of Rabbi Thurman. Now, he was a bachelor rabbi. So when he lived in this parsonage, the Ladies Concordia Society thought, well, we might as well split it up into apartments and make more money out of it. So it was split up into 4 apartments. And I don't know which rabbi it was. And I've got to tell you, the first parsonage was 2 blocks from the temple. This one's about 3 blocks, so they could easily walk there. Lorraine Oppenheimer and Miriam Warschauer told me that they were living in a house at 5th and Orange, and they were playing bridge on a Friday night in a bay window. The rabbi left temple, saw them playing cards instead of being at services. He banged on the door and he said, "Why weren't you in services? What are you doing?" And I said, "What in the world did you do?" And they said, "Well, we just dealt another hand." So Rabbi Thurman was our World War II rabbi. He did these weekly book reviews in person and on the radio, and these were supported by the LCS. In 1936, as far as I know, this is the first Sisterhood Sabbath, and he held that in 1936. During the war, the temple worked with the USO to welcome Jewish soldiers who were stationed at the military bases in the Wilmington area. The LCS turned Rosenthal Hall into a USO center for welcoming Jews from around the country. LCS members also took them home for a good meal, and more than one romance began from these gatherings. I have to tell you about one. When I was a very young librarian, I had a volunteer, Ken Albert, who I loved. Sometimes I think I spent more time with Ken than I did my own father. Anyway, Ken met Horty Finkelstein during World War II. Ken was stationed at Camp Davis. They got married, and he was from a fairly Orthodox family in New York, but Horty's family would drive to Sabbath services at B'nai Israel, which was at that time was still downtown on Brunswick Street. And I said, "What did you do, Ken?" And he said, "Horty would drive the car really slowly and I would walk beside it." From Forest Hills to downtown. And there were a lot of wonderful LCS presidents during World War II. And Clara Goldstein Warschauer, who I knew, lovely woman. She is sitting on the left of the table with Miriam Warschauer and Lorraine Opp. So then there were also a lot of Jewish soldiers were going to the USO Club, which is still going strong in downtown Wilmington. It's one of the oldest surviving in its original form USO clubs in the country. And if you knew Hannah Block, which a lot of you did, Hannah would belong to the Temple of Israel, B'nai Israel. She'd go back and forth. But anyway, she was a great hostess at the USO Club. In fact, it's named the Hannah Block USO Club even today. And she was a hostess there. She was the first female lifeguard at Carolina Beach. She was the first fully elected mayor pro tem of Wilmington. So she was in politics, historic preservation. Anyway, if you ever get a chance to see the wonderful video called Down Home Jewish North Carolina, there is Hannah playing the piano at the USO Club, and her favorite song was "Nothing Could Be Finer Than to Be in Carolina." Anyway, you need to see the video. She was a dear, a World War II hero. So back to the LCS, we have always supported the religious school. On the left, you see Esther Jastrow Mendelson. Why they called her Kate, I have no idea, but the photographs have her listed as Kate, although all of the official records are Esther Jastrow Mendelson. She was born in Poland in 1854, and she died in Wilmington in 1942. So she lived a very long life. And I just wanted to get back to the parsonages. Every time a rabbi died, whether it was Mendelson, Rosenthal, Sober, or whoever, their wives were kicked out and they went to live somewhere else. Not kicked out, but they had to leave. So speaking of religious school, I cannot tell you how many photographs there are of the religious school, because LCS has always been extremely supportive of the religious school and still is very supportive. But these are just some of the photographs that I have. I've been looking for more, and I think we could do even more, but anyway. And looking through my photographs, on the left is Sue Menses, who member of B'nai Israel and a very good friend of mine. And there she is teaching the religious school about, or Hanukkah. And then on the right is our former Rebbitzin, Lenore Gordon, who's also teaching about Passover. So LCS from the beginning, as I said, has raised funds to clean and renovate the temple. The earliest images that I have are these after Hurricane Hazel in 1955, which was pretty devastating to the building. LCS paid architects and designers to redesign the inside to, maybe change it around and make it look a little better. And on the left are the drawings, and on the right are the plans that they came up with. So there were other renovations, big and small. LCS members in charge included Miriam Warshauer, Elaine Selden, Lillian Blake, and Mildred Solomon, just to name a few. On the left is Mildred, or as I knew her, Millie. She was on the LCS board for 45 years. I can't tell you how many things Millie did. And you can see, these LCS women lived pretty long lives. And on the right is Miriam Warshauer. She started social justice programs. She went through renovations. I can't tell you the number of wonderful things that Miriam did. She had a pretty long life too. And then there are just two more LCS members who I love dearly, and they were my go-to people when I needed information. On the left is Lillian Solomon Sternberger, and she, as you can see, lived to be 99. And then Lorraine Rice Oppenheimer on the right was 100 when she died. So we LCS members, they keep going. They live long lives. I just wanted to say too that Jewish women in Wilmington worked. If you look up on the left, you'll see that's the Jacoby offices. And as you can see, there's a couple of women working in the office. Jewish women worked at dry goods stores. They worked in the winery. They did all kinds of work helping out. And there's this one story about a family whose name I won't say, but he had 3 daughters and they desperately wanted to go to college. And he said, nope, you can stay here, work in the store. And with all the money I'm going to save for you going to college, I can buy another building. So anyway, Lillian, who you saw on the last slide, Lillian Sternberger, went to Wellesley in Massachusetts. One of the things, the Temple women were very well educated. She went to Wellesley. There were other Temple women who went to schools up in New England. If you stayed in North Carolina, you went to UNCG, which at that time was called Women's College. And I just wanted to say, I don't know how many of you are members of the American Association of University Women, but I would say that a lot of LCS members belong to that, or did belong to that organization, which began in 1881 educating women. And I have a whole story about a woman that was educated in Germany who AAUW brought to the United States, but that's for another lecture. Back to the renovations, a large renovation that took place in 2010 was supported by LCS. And if you look to the left, there's Beth Pankow working away with the windows. Of course, LCS has always been interested in providing food not only for the temple, but for the community. We have always taken care of the temple Passover Seder. I remember this was years ago. I was a young LCS member, and I was told that I had to be in charge of the Seder. And it was in Rosenthal Hall. We used to actually have them there, and I could barely get enough tables in there. I can't remember what happened, but somebody's gefilte fish fell into somebody's matzo ball soup, and it was kind of a total disaster, which was kind of good for me because nobody ever asked me to chair that committee again. Right. Anyway, and then of course we've always done the ONEGs, the Break the Fast, Meals on Wheels, Nourish North Carolina, and we continue to help with the meals. So I talked about the fancy ball fundraisers. There were also annual bazaars, and they had different themes. One of them I read about in the newspaper was the Ice and Snow Festival. This is really interesting. In 1897, at the 25th anniversary of LCS, the members did a tableau of women's rights. In 1963, they raised money to put a biblical garden on the south side of the temple. And I must say, the only thing left from that biblical garden is the fig tree. We sold so many bulbs that if you go all over Wilmington, you will see daffodils and other bulbs. And, you know, if you walk through somebody's garden, they'll say, "Oh, those are beautiful." And they said, "I bought them from the temple." I mean, when I was a young member of LCS, they would give me these huge bags of bulbs, and I would go to the library and sell them. I'd sell them all to all my friends. Anyway, that was a big fundraiser. The cookbook, which if you don't have a copy, we can get you one. That was a big fundraiser for the temple. And then jewelry. And if you look up on the right, I told you about the renovation that Beth did, and some of the windows were cracked and broken. And LCS took those windows and made jewelry out of it, sold the jewelry to make money for the temple and for LCS. It was wonderful. The one up on the right is mine, and I cherish it. And of course, you know, our gift shop supports everything we do. All right. I just have to tell you about an LCS fundraiser that I want to bring back.
No.
So what you see here is a womanless beauty pageant. And on the left is Marie Kahn. And somehow she got her husband and 4 other men to dress up in bathing suits. I mean, people paid big money to see this. And they are standing on the stage, which was at the temple before, you know, where we have the big TV now. There was actually a stage there. And so the Womanless Beauty Pageant raised a lot of money for LCS. And, you know, I don't know, Sharon and Sherry, but I think we ought to try this again.
No.
So that's the end of my story. I think our Ladies Concordia Society is very strong, very vibrant. Sharon told me as of last year, this year, we had 91 members, and maybe we have some more. I don't know. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, let's share.
I just want to tell Glenn that he has nothing to say about another fashion show.
Yellow.
It's Jeannie, Glenn.
Yellow. Click it off.
Beverly, thank you so much for sharing all your information, your historical information. And it's just unbelievable what a wealth of knowledge you have. And we so appreciate you coming and talking to us today. I've learned so much that it's been great. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Beverly, I have a question.
Yeah. Sorry, I can't.
Yeah, when the temple was first founded and we were having services, were the services in German?
Yes. Well,
And were the prayer books in German?
yes.
All three.
And I'm sorry, we have in our archives, we have, sorry.
Did you cut your sound on? Yeah,
Do you want me to remove the screen?
yes.
All right. Yes, the prayer books were in German and the sermons are in German. And
Do you
there's,
know
of course, some
about
Hebrew
when
and Yiddish as well.
And
Do
English.
you
In
know about
English.
when it switched
Oh my God.
over to English or
Unmute.
around what year?
You're good.
Any other?
Oh, I don't have any.
Well, hold on, Glenn's got to fix it.
Can we get back to where we could see everybody so it could be?
Yes, go up to the top and click on gallery view, but nobody is spotlighted and we stopped screen sharing. So if you just click on gallery view, you'll be able to see everybody.
Got it.
And I think Mayra has a question and we're still, Beverly, when you can, we're waiting on that answer.
It's not, let me get my, yeah, it's not a question, it's a comment. I remember my mother came home from a Ladies Concordia Society meeting and she was appalled that there was some kind of a movement to change the name, to update the name. I don't know, it was Sisterhood or whatever. And
Oh yeah.
She took a strong stand not to change that name.
Yeah,
What were they
I
gonna change
remember
it to,
that.
do you know what they were proposing to change it to?
No, but it's happened more than once. And we've always gone back to it.
Beverly,
Yeah.
when did the perm ball stop?
I don't remember. I think it was the 20s or the 30s. It might have stopped, with the Depression.
Yeah.
But don't you think it'd be great to do that again?
That sounds fun.
Beverly,
Yeah.
it's Sandy. I wanted to make one comment to share. Since we've so many newer members, I've been here long enough to remember the Passover Seders in the basement. And I will tell you that it was very limited. I think there was, if I can think of, I think it was limited to 26 people. You had to make a reservation and they would order chicken legs and then we would bring everything else. So it's a memory. Also, I was somewhat responsible for the drawings for the 2000 renovation. And here's another thing that would be most important, especially to us women. One thing I can tell you is that I turned the stairway, which gave us 3 bathrooms. Believe it or not, we used to have but 1. And we now have 3 just from turning the stairway. And then it gave a space for the large TV, which Walter donated so that we can accommodate overflow when we have a big crowd. Just some notes about that renovation. It was very
Beverly,
interesting.
there's a question. Yeah. Could you say something about how LCS and the temple responded to the 1989?
It should have been 98.
Yeah.
1898 it should be.
Yeah, not 1989.
I don't know anything about LCS. There's nothing in our records about it. So I don't know. I will say that Rabbi Thurman, when he was here from 36 to 45, he started the first exchange with the African American church every year, which was in Sisterhood Sabbath. But I really don't know how LCS reacted to that in 1898.
Rabbi, do you know how long the Interfaith Council
And I
has
don't
been in
react-
existence?
Well, the Interfaith Council that I'm a part of actually is not that old, and it was started, I believe, Rabbi Waxman was integral in starting it, and that was actually in reaction to racial comings together to do some racial reparations, and it's about 20 years old, I believe.
Yeah, Rabbi Harley was big in that, but before that, there was United Charities. There was a whole lot of things that happened before. You know, everybody always thinks that they invent something and, you know, it happened before.
Beverly and Sandy, where is the book? Where can we purchase it?
Well, you can come to my house. I can give you one. I can meet you somewhere. It's $100 donation and it goes to the restoration fund.
Good.
And I wrote it. Peggy designed it and Walter paid for it. About 4 or 5 years ago, Walter was all over me about rewriting the history, and I would work on it, and I would work on it. And I don't know if y'all remember, but I got pneumonia. And I was so sick, I had to quit working on it. Finally got it together, and I did it, and Peggy was nice enough to design it. And I can tell you, in my neighborhood, about 5 people have purchased it. My Episcopal friend, who's a retired Episcopal priest, she gave me $500 for one. And so anyway, I don't know, Sandy, maybe I can come see you one day and bring you one, or we could meet it.
I'd like to have one, and
I
don't
would
know.
too, Beverly.
Maybe
Me
it could
too,
be a gift
Beverly.
shop. And can I contribute something else? I'd like to say one other thing. I'm not sure there are extra copies of the cookbook. We pretty much
Okay.
had sold it out. So can someone address
No, I
that?
thought we still had
If
copies.
there's any- I think there was a tour a couple years ago, and I think we sold what was left.
Beverly,
So
it's
There might
Peggy.
be a few in the gift shop.
I started to say, I think Sandy would be the person to ask for that.
We're
yeah,
going to have
Sandy
a,
Apple.
Yeah,
we're
Sandy.
going to have a, trying to get it out. We're going to have a link on our website that directs you to purchase a book of the history that Beverly wrote. And
Right.
that's gonna be
It's
coming
on
up
there already.
probably sometime this week. You can pay for it online and fill out, you know, like you
Everyone,
order anything else, like Amazon.
I just like,
So that will be happening.
it is not possible to buy that book. What you have to do is make a contribution to
Exactly.
the 150, and with your contribution, you automatically get a copy of the book.
That's what Beverly said, Walter.
Such, I believe
We got it.
the minimum of $200.
100.
She said 100. What is it,
Okay.
Beverly?
Beverly's left for a moment, but it's 100.
Thank you,
Got
Glenn.
it.
If
So
anybody
we can
wants
purchase
to,
I'll give you a
one
copy.
online like we would our dues, right?
yes, but if anybody wants to put in the chat that you want the book, we will make sure to follow up with you on that. So I heard a number of people say you want it, so feel free to put it in the chat and we'll make arrangements, whether you have to meet Beverly or we'll do our best to make it so you can stop by the Reedman and get one. And I want to say that the first printing, I believe we have 50 copies. So you might want to hurry up and purchase this first run. Otherwise, you're going to have to get a second run. And I'm just sure the first run is going to be even more valuable in the terms of history. At least Naomi's laughing at my joke. I appreciate all of that. Oh, and look at that. Maggie has now upped the ante by asking she wants a signed copy. So I love it. I love it. So anyone who wants to put in the chat, we will make sure to follow up with you on that. And as was said, there'll be a link coming to the website very soon. And I want to thank you for all of that. I know, Glenn, you mentioned that Beverly stepped out for a moment, but does anyone have other questions for Beverly or any other comments? I'm very excited about bringing back the ball, and I'm very excited about this beautyless, not a beautyless beauty comment. I believe it's womanless.
Womanless.
Yes, I sit correct.
I want to see Ruben.
Me too.
Point out that to get a copy of the book, you must contribute a minimum of $100, but it is not restricted to that. Many
We
people.
know, Walter, we know. Somebody's already offered 200.
My neighbor gave 500. One of my friends gave 1,000, and I gave him a book. So
I'm not doing that, Beverly.
Well, you don't have to
Can't do that.
Even though your picture's in there.
My sister's in there?
Your picture.
Judy? Oh, my picture.
There's a
I'll give
picture
you
of
100.
Jeannie getting married.
Oh, right.
Oh,
1963 with that Rabbi Feinberg, right?
Who didn't live in the parsonage.
Rabbi Feinberg married us too.
Oh, wow.
Did he? He
I
was
want to
so
mention one
nice.
thing about Rabbi Rosenthal. So he didn't last long here, but his wife Trudy, his widow, lived in Wilmington until
Oh,
she
really?
died.
Yeah.
And she was extremely active in the temple. I'm pretty sure she taught Sunday school. She was a tremendous influence on my life and all of my family because she was the only Holocaust survivor that we knew. And she was just a lovely, lovely woman. So we all loved her. I want to mention that. Bright blue eyes, white hair, and just shining face. Anybody that remembers her?
My friend Ann Hewlett, she spent a lot of time with Lillian Sturberger and Tabby and with Trudy. And she said that when she was a little girl, she would look at the number
arm.
tattooed on her arm. And and the bust in Rosenthal Hall is of Rabbi Rosenthal.
What I want to know is how the women with those big hoop skirts went up and down the stairs.
Cautiously.
I will say that the reason we got the elevator was because of Miss Lillian. She said she couldn't go to services anymore, and she may have actually helped pay for that elevator.
Walter did.
Wow.
No, Walter did, that's right. But which is, it's really nice to have. But yeah, I don't know how they got up there. I actually don't know how you went to a dress ball with that much weight of clothes on you.
Just because you brought that up, the elevator, I want to say that it was Walter and an anonymous donor, but the anonymous donor has since been revealed, and it was the Ryan family. So to a blessed memory to Don. And there was that great picture that I think some of you saw of Rebecca with little Rachel in there. That was a very cute picture.
The cradle roll picture.
Yeah, so cute.
Yeah, but I will say, they paid for it, but if it hadn't been for Lillian driving all of us crazy, which we deserved.
One of the things that we have asked Beverly to do, and it'll probably be in the spring, is to give us a walk through the Jewish cemetery, of the historical cemetery. So hoping
Which
that.
one is that, Sharon?
comes
Is that the one at Oakdale, or is that the Jewish
Oakdale.
cemetery?
Oakdale.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to do it Sharon asked me if I could do it next month. But as you all maybe know, I'm having a granddaughter and I don't know if I'll be in
Congratulations.
Raleigh or if I'll be here. And
So we will postpone that.
Yeah, grandparenthood comes first.
Yes, of course.
We will have that in the spring. As far as to what's coming up in LCS, Linda Bronstein's our program chairman, and she and I have been talking. Coming up, maybe we'll have a Rosh Kodesh outside at the end of the month while the weather is still nice.
Be nice.
And then we'll be talking to the rabbi with Hanukkah. Hanukkah is like right the weekend after Thanksgiving. So
this year.
everybody has to have latkes instead of mashed potatoes with your turkey.
Hey, what? It ain't a bad idea, Sharon.
So
We will
we
almost
welcome your
have
ideas. Please feel free to send them to either me, Sherry, or Linda, or anyone else on the board. So we would love to hear from you, and we really appreciate your coming today. It's been great fun. Beverly, thank you so much.
my
for
pleasure.
sharing.
And there's some
so much, Mayor.
new faces, some people I actually met in other places. I want to say hi to Ruth, if she's still there. And you know, so welcome to all the new people and returning people. And hopefully we're going to find a way to be able to be together
great.
outside.
Yeah.
And
If I
don't
can-
forget our walk around Halliburton on the 24th of October and brunch at the Cam Museum Cafe.
So to add to that, so we've got that walk and brunch that Jeannie mentioned, and then starting next week, we have a 3-part Southern cooking series,
Right.
which is being done in conjunction with SAGE, the Southern Alliance for Jewish Education. So feel free to check that out. And I want to teach everyone an expression that you may not know that we're going to say to Beverly and to Glenn. So in case you don't know it, I want everyone to repeat after me. B'sha'a tova.
Sha'ah Tovah.
B'sha'a tova.
What's the Sha'ah
B'sha'a
stand for? I
tova.
know what the Tovah stands for. What's the Sha'ah, Rabbi?
Well, Sha'ah is literally the time or the hour. And so we say B'sha'a tova, which literally means all in good time. So that's what you say to somebody when they're expecting a baby or expecting a grandchild. So this way the baby's going to come at whatever's the good time for the baby. And then once that happens, we'll be able to wish Kinahara a hearty mazel tov. So Beverly, want to wish you a B'sha'a tova to you and Glenn and Ariel. And just in Hebrew, we would say Hamon toda. Thank you, thank you. This was just so incredible. Thank you so much.
What, Rabbi, when will the walk and brunch be?
October the 24th
Where?
at Halliburton Park over off 17th Street. And then right after at 11 o'clock, I've reserved 20 seats, 20 to 25 at the Cam Cafe, which is outstanding.
Oh, it's
Because
wonderful.
those who've been there can
Wonderful food.
vouch what a great
I'd like to
experience.
join that event.
Great. So you know what, Jeannie, just
Love
put your
to
email.
have you.
Jeannie, put your email in the chat as well. And you don't need to RSVP for the walk, but please RSVP for
For
the
dinner, yeah,
brunch.
for the brunch. Okay, I'm typing it right now.
Thanks, Jeannie. Sharon, did I miss any other announcements?
I can't think of any. Did you have any for what's coming up in December Hanukkah wise, or we're waiting for that?
We haven't made any plans yet for Hanukkah. I can tell you that December 1st, which occurs during Hanukkah, is World AIDS Day. So we will have a special program to coincide with that. And I definitely need to talk to you, but we are in the works of bringing Rabbi Sally Presand, who is the first female ordained rabbi in
great.
America. And I've been communicating with Sally, and she's going to do a virtual talk for us in December, hopefully. We just got to get that date and see if we can make that a co-event with LCS as well. So hold on to your hats, and we'll we'll get you information about that. Thank you, Maggie, for symbolically holding on to the hat you're not wearing. I appreciate that. So that may or may not, that's kind of my sneak peek into possibly Hanukkah or a little bit later. And welcome all the ideas you have for Hanukkah. And I also want to thank LCS for participating in our wonderful High Holiday goodie bag. If you did not get one, I think there still may be a few apples and honey and the stress ball. And I think that's about it. Isn't that great? We have so much going on. We can give program announcements as long as the program.
Thanks for
All right.
everything.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great day,
Beverly,
everybody.
everyone. It was wonderful. Bye.
Thank you again, Beverly and